Actors, we've all got issues, so let's talk about them. You're listening to Actors with Issues, a self-help podcast for actors by actors. Hello, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, and welcome back to another episode of Actors with Issues, the self-help podcast for actors by actors. Featuring special guests from the worlds of TV, film, and Broadway, we take a deep dive into the world of entertainment and discuss what it means to be an actor today. I'm your host, Juan Ayala, and today I'm joined by a delightful actress that you know and love from the CBS series Ghosts, with its fifth season around the corner and already renewed for a sixth, Sheila Carrasco. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
So before we dive in, we also have to welcome you into the Actors with Issues Ghosts Hall of Fame, as I call it, because we've had so many of your co-stars on the show. Roman was actually the first person we ever had from the show, and it was before the pilot was picked up to series. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I had reached out to him, and he was actually on the show again recently, sort of a 200 episodes later, which was
And
really
and
cool.
and how had he changed? He changed, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so, and you know, when I was in LA, last year, I believe, we met up and had lunch. And just such a lovely guy, and I
Yeah.
mean, all of you guys are just lovely people, really. Like, I met Asher in person at a premiere a few months ago, and he was on the show twice before. Danielle's been on the show, Rebecca, John, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's been so cool to see the show just continue and succeed the way it has. You know, 5 seasons is unheard of these days. 6 seasons, even more so. You know, I feel like so many shows are one and done. So
Yeah. And
seeing the
22
show find
episodes
its
at
audience,
that,
yeah,
It's
the full
more
season.
and
It's
more
like,
like only 8 or 10. Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's
you guys
very
in Abbott Elementary just going strong.
right. Yeah, we feel so lucky to be able to make the show that we make because it's so much fun and we love each other. And then to just be able to keep doing it, it feels like such a dream come true. And I regularly have to pinch myself, even going into season 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're excited to come back for season 6. I mean, hopefully it keeps going from there. Who
Yeah.
knows?
And I want to get into your early years before we sort of dive into Ghost. We have lots of fan submitted questions from Reddit, who want to know all about Flower and
Oh,
upcoming
great.
storylines and all of that. But born and raised in Chicago, and my partner is from Chicago. I love Chicago so much. But when were you first sort of bit by the acting bug, as we refer to it, and whatnot? And at what point did acting feel like an actual career? I feel like for so long we think it's just something we might do for fun in school, and then it's like, oh wait, I can do this as a job. How do I do that? So when was that sort of
Yeah.
shift for you?
I did it as a kid for fun. Well, I really loved singing, and then I saw the movie Annie and was like, I wanna be just doing that all day long. I want to be an orphan singing It's a Hard Knock Life. And then like the local community theater was doing Annie, and my mom saw it in the newspaper and was like, you could go audition if you want, because I would not stop singing the songs at home. So I think she was like, oh, let's get you somewhere to do that. So I had no speaking role. I was like in the orphan chorus, which is where they put all the kids who didn't get a real part. And I loved it so much. I just kept doing it. And so it was something I always did for fun as a kid. And then I think in high school at some point, I was like really good at biology that year. And I was never good at math and science, but I decided I was going to become a doctor. And most parents would say, yes, yes, thank God. But no, my parents were like, okay, that's nice. Here are the brochures for all the art schools you can apply to.
They knew.
Um, yeah, they knew, and thank God they did. So that's kind of was always, I think, a little bit, even if I didn't know it, like my family knew that that's
Mhm.
what I really wanted to do. And I don't know that it really felt like a career for a long time. I think for a long time it felt like an unattainable dream that I just kept plugging away at.
Mhm.
Um, it took me I graduated from college, spent a few years in New York, hustling, working all these jobs and trying to get auditions. And then I went to grad school. And after grad school, I think it took me like 6 years to get an agent, like the agent
Mhm.
that I have today. Um, and then even longer to get the pilot. And so I'm just kind of like a late bloomer, I think, in regards to it feeling like a career.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful for that because it pushed me to get better and to
Mhm.
have real life experience to draw from and all of that. And so I would say it didn't really feel real until I got ghosts, because up until then you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're just hustling and you're just trying to make fun stuff with your friends, which is honestly the best part of the whole thing. But yeah, yeah, I would say it was around ghosts that I went, okay, I'm finally feel secure.
Yeah. When we spoke with Rahman recently, he sort of mentioned that as well. Like, it's only a couple seasons. It took him a couple seasons into the show to sort of feel like there's a sense of security, and especially with sort of the 2 season renewal, it's like, oh, so we're good for. It's not sort of the year to year of like, are we getting renewed? It's like you get that extra sort of bit of like, no, we're gonna do season 6, so we're good. We've got next year as well, and yeah. But again, it's been so cool to see like just the show's success because it's such a lovely feel good show. Um, yeah, but
Thank you.
with with the experience of ghosts and whatnot, from what I recall, speaking to your co-stars, the pilot was sort of just because of COVID and everything, it was kind of of a mess at the time because there was so much up in the air. It's like, are we shutting down? Are people being recast and all of that? So, what was that experience for you with the pilot? And then once COVID happened, like, what was the whole audition experience like for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I auditioned for the show via self-tape and then Zoom callback and then Zoom pilot test,
Wow.
which was all very new to everyone at the time. I mean, this was like um, the first few months into the pandemic. I guess I got on the show like 6 months in, but everyone was just starting to really productions were coming back, so we were just starting to figure out the whole self-tape Zoom audition
Mm.
thing. I was like, Blue Jean app, what is that? And but it actually did something kind of great for me because I love performing on stage. I've never felt like nervous or stage fright in my life, but auditioning was always kind of hard for me. I would really get in my own way and be nervous, and I'd see who was in the waiting room
Mm.
and go, oh, well, they're gonna get it. And doing this on Zoom, I think really enabled me to just block all of that noise out and I felt so much more comfortable and
Mm.
weirdly I think it really helped me. I would say obviously being in person is always preferable, but it was really nice. So I'm glad I booked it that way. And then the pilot was just so fun. We shot it in LA. We actually shot it in the same house that they shot um Rutherford Falls. Like
Oh
in
yeah, yeah,
that pilot, it was like the same house that there's, I think, Ed Helms's
yeah.
house or something. And I remember seeing that because they came out the same year. And I was like, oh, that's so crazy. Anyway, that was great. And it was during the pandemic and everyone was wearing their masks and their shields on top of the masks. Like it was super, super
Yeah.
like just locked down. We all had to like quarantine before shooting. So no one wanted to lose that job. And even within all of that, we all were able to connect and have a great time. Um, and yeah, I think we just all were so like, God, we really hope this goes to series. Wouldn't it be so great? But
Mm.
also not trying to get your hopes up because you hear about so many shows that don't get made.
Yeah.
And then, we're all in the text thread and we're staying in touch. And then when I think March, we shot it in December, and end of March, we find out it was actually the last day, the deadline day that they had to greenlight the show. And so that last day, we're all
Mm.
texting each other, has anyone heard anything? And like, no
Right.
one's heard anything. We all get our calls at like 5:56 p.m. Like they
Wow.
made it in just at the last second. So we were all sweating. And then we all got called by the Joes. We're shooting the show and we're shooting it in Montreal. And my first response was like, great, we're just making it. Awesome. I get to travel. Amazing. And we all hopped on a Zoom together so we could all celebrate together as a cast. And that was so, so fun.
Mm.
And yeah. Does that answer your question?
It did. I feel like I threw in like 3 questions, like, so what was this like and how did that, you're good. Um, but being a fan of the show, just sort of I noticed like, oh, like I'll notice just because as an actor, I sort of paying attention to like 10 different things, not just the dialogue, but it's like I'm like, oh, look at that thing in the background. Oh, I noticed like an extra, or oh, I know this actor, this guest star from so and so.
Mhm.
But sometimes I'll notice that like a certain character is absent from an episode, and it's just They just are. There's no there's no like big sort of like reason, a plot driven reason for it or anything. Or three ghosts are assigned to be with Rose for her scenes, and then
Right,
Flower and Thorfinn are doing their drama, and Pete's
right.
helping out or something. It's like there's sort of everyone sort of gets like
A story, B
sectioned
story.
off.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I'm curious because of that, are there any characters who you wish you had more scenes with or could share the screen a bit more with? Because sort of folks are like sort of sectioned off like that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm always wanting the big full cast scenes
Mm,
where all 10 of us are in them. And these days they only happen like 3 times a season. And I feel like season one, because we were still establishing like the premise and the world of the show, we had so many more episodes where we were all in all the scenes together and a part of the big drama that was happening because we all want to know what Sam and Jay are going to do about X, Y, and Z. Um, and, I get why we can't do that because it makes the days really long.
mm,
And also, um, it's just quicker and easier, I think, to have only the three ghosts go through the A story or whatever. So I always just wish for more of that big ensembleness. And I love the days when we get to do that. We have so much fun. But then, there's actors like John Hartman playing Nigel. I'm always pitching that like, can Flower and Nigel actually be best friends on the side and have their own little tea parties and gossip? And Flower's always spreading gossip that is completely untrue. And Nigel's always like just eating it up. I don't know. That would be so fun. I love him. And I mean, you gotta love Betsy Sidaro.
yes, yeah.
Anytime you get to act with her is just a treat. She's probably like the most cheerful, sunniest person I've ever met.
Mm,
Um, she's so wonderful. And I think we're so lucky. We get so many good guest stars. Every
mm.
single one is just fantastic. And I end up making friends with them, and then I miss them, and I wish that they could come back. Yeah, I think everyone. That's such a flower answer. I want to spend more time with everybody.
That is such a flower answer. I love that. Just
Yeah.
everybody, man. Hang out. We'll all hang out.
I'll be in one big 60-person scene, and the crew will love us. Everybody gets like one half line.
Mm. But before we get into some fan questions as well, I wanted to ask you about motherhood as you became a mom during the time on the show. The writers had put in this storyline where, of course, Flower gets trapped at the bottom of a well. How a ghost falls into a well is we don't question the
The
physics.
flower. Yep.
Um,
Oh, yes, the physics of it. Oh, there was a whole apparently like ghost logic. It took weeks for them to figure out. And then they tried to explain it with the whole wall versus floor thing, which I think works, but it's a little loose.
yeah, but with that, it was a way to sort of write you off of the show for a little bit as you were going through like a maternity leave and all of that. But what was that experience like, sort of it being a collaboration? Because I feel like we hear these like terrible stories of back in the day in Hollywood where actresses would be terrified of being fired because they were pregnant because they're like, oh, the writers can't write me off in this way. Like in one of the fan questions, someone mentions when Rose was pregnant in real life, she's the star of the show, so you can't really write her off of a show called
Yeah.
Ghost because then it's just Jay in an empty house, or he thinks it's empty. But what was that whole experience like, just sort of that collaboration?
So wonderful and supportive.
Mm,
Uh, so I just timeline wise, I got pregnant right after season two. And then the writer's strike happened. So the whole time I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss the second half of season three. Um, but I'll be able to make it there until I'll work until I'm like 38 weeks pregnant. I don't care. Then the writer's strike happened, and that whole time we didn't know when we were coming back.
mm,
Well, season three came back and started production the week before I gave birth.
wow.
So, the timing of it was all kind of crazy. But when I called the Joes to tell them I was pregnant, I waited until I was like 13 weeks because, you just want to be sure.
Mm,
They were so supportive and they actually, I don't know if they had decided who else was going to be sucked off, but it wasn't me. That was never
wow.
the original plan. I think it just worked out organically that, oh, great. It can be flour. At least that's what I understand. And so They wrote that in, but they also said, but you're not really going to be sucked off. That's
Mm,
all I knew. And then I went and got more and more pregnant and did my thing. And then by the time it came back, I don't think they told me that I was like stuck down a well until they were well into production for season 3. And I was like postpartum and was like, okay, cool, fine. Sure. But it was such like a brilliant solution and they were so supportive. And at that time, Rose was getting more and more pregnant, so she shot. But we were on a bit of a time crunch with getting these 10 episodes in that we were able to make after the strike
mm,
because she also had to be able to get back home to LA and give birth because, as much as I love Canada, we don't have their healthcare system when we're there. So like we like
right.
to be close to our doctors and to travel that late in pregnancy is tricky. So they had to
Mm,
kind of crunch it in for her schedule, but I was able, and it was my choice. I could have missed the whole third season, but I really wanted to come back and make it for some part of it. So I chose to come back for like the last 3 episodes. And my baby was big enough at that point. She was like 2 months old, two and a
mm,
half months, and we traveled to Montreal and we shot those 3 episodes. And they were so supportive, and I felt so lucky to be able to do that. And I will say, there are horror stories about getting pregnant and having a baby in the middle of a career, especially at the beginning of your break,
mhm,
that is really would make one not want to get pregnant too soon. And because of that, because we did IVF and we had our embryos, like we decided to wait until season 1 was over. And
mm,
then after that, I was like, but I want one more season where I just don't have to worry about like you know, a baby and traveling to Montreal and living there and all that stuff. So we did season 2. And then by the time season 2 happened, I was like, okay, we can't keep pushing this off. Let's do it. And I was still scared and nervous,
mm,
even job security wise, because you just never know. And having a baby totally changes you. And I didn't know what was going to happen with my life after that. And it was like a loss of control a little bit. So I
yeah,
was really scared to go through the process. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, I could have done that during season 1. They would have been so supportive and wonderful. I'm glad it all worked out how it did. And
yeah,
I know why I did it was like a good reason, but it has changed so much. And so I would say to anyone listening, like, have your family. Career will also happen.
yeah,
And I always would joke, career's my other baby. And so I want to see that fully through and it can be. And that's okay. You can have both. It's not going to be easy, but
yeah.
you can do. Yeah.
Did you find that it was difficult getting back into the swing of things once you had come back, given that it was this really much longer than usual sort of in between season absence because of the strike? We had the strike for what, like 6 months, I think. It was like five,
Yeah.
6 months.
It was six
Um,
months.
and but was it a little hard sort of getting back to the swing of things, or did it feel like riding a bike? You just sort of like snap back into flower, into the voice, into the routine of it all.
Ooh, good question. I would say a little bit of both. I think I was postpartum, you're physically like wrecked and stuff. So
Yeah.
there was that part of it that was like a little bit hard. But also I remember being really worried that my voice had changed, that it had deepened, like my natural speaking voice.
Mhm.
And even singing, I noticed like I can't hit those notes like I used to, and flower is kind of is higher pitched.
Yeah.
And I remember being really worried. I told our director, Trent, our production director, like, I don't know if I can really hit her voice anymore. And he was like, what are you talking about? It was all fine. But in my head, like it sounded so different. Um, but there were little things like that that didn't come back like naturally that I kind of had to like rewire my brain a little bit and just practice a bunch. Memorizing was definitely harder. Not because of the strike, but just, mom brain. And then, yeah, just the physical part of it. But then once I got the costume on and put on the jewelry and the hair and the
Yeah.
makeup, it was like, there she is. There she is. We're back, baby.
Yeah. We have as I mentioned before, I have a bunch of questions from fans. So we're gonna go
Yay.
to our next segment called From the Fans. These usernames always crack me up. I feel like I have to say a disclaimer all the time because it's like, oh, that sounds a little inappropriate now that I say it that way.
I
It's
want to
like
hear all of them.
oh, they made this username when they were 12 and they haven't changed it since then. But Moscow
Never
Pink
change. Mas
says,
what?
Moscow Pink asks, did you study the time period that Flower lived in to be as realistic as you could in your portrayal of her?
I did. A lot for the physicality. Like I watched a lot of uh like crowd videos from Woodstock
Mm.
to see how people danced and kind of moved because I'm sure 9 out of 10 people were extremely high and living their best life. I think a lot of us ghosts like died on a really important day of our life, or a time in our life.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of like capture that essence of like a hippie that had just come from Woodstock and was riding high. And so, yeah, I studied that. And then, of course, the time period, depending on, where you are and who you are in the 60s could have been wildly different. But for her as a hippie, I wanted to keep her pretty simple and just completely like as much of an optimist and idealist and in a positive minded place as possible.
West Translator 9829, oh God, uh, asks, has the friendship between Sheila and Rose changed since they've each had a baby? I also noticed how much stuff Sam is carrying around because Rose was pregnant at the time. That's always so funny to me. They're just someone's always just carrying like my roommate watches The Nanny all the time, and when
Yeah,
Cece was pregnant, she just walks in with a giant bag, turns
it's
around,
so
grabs a
great.
flower pot, and
Yes,
just
I feel like
it's
Parks and Rec did some really fun sight gags with that too. Yeah, that's so fun. Rose and we just love each other madly deeply.
mm.
She's such a good friend of mine, and I think becoming mothers at the same time is really deep in that friendship. Weirdly, our children hate each other. No, I'm kidding. No, they
Born
have play
enemies.
dates. They play together on the weekends. They see each other on set sometimes, and they love each other. Same with Devin's kid.
Yeah.
Beowulf, we all like hang out as much as we can on the weekends, and um, yeah, motherhood is wild, and
Mm,
it's so nice to have a friend going through it at the same time as me. And Rose is a great friend. I love her.
mm. This username sounds like it could have been written by Flower. Unicorn Calmer Downer
Mm.
says, "What is your favorite Flower plotline? And besides Flower, who is your favorite ghost on the show?"
Hmm.
It's like picking a favorite kid. That's crazy.
I know that's tough. Well, I just love the plot lines in season 4 where Flower got the best of Trevor and Hetty. I think it was so fun to do, and that I got such meaty dialogue to play with that. And it's so nice, when any character wins finally.
Mm,
Flower often messes things up for people and gets in the way. But sometimes the hard part of that too is that she can forget that she did it, but
mm,
also B, she's such a pacifist. Um, it's not hard, but it's like it's nice to play when she's has a lot of conviction about something, especially like with the capitalism stuff with Trevor. That just felt really good.
mm.
And the more we find out about that stuff with Flower, the deeper the character grows. So I love playing that.
Orpheus 1980 says, "Given how different she looks when not in her flower getup, do you ever get recognized in public?"
Oh wow, we were just talking about this. I very rarely get recognized. I'm just starting to become aware of maybe I possibly am getting recognized and someone's not saying anything, or I have something like stuck in my hair and they're not telling me. It's like one of those two things. Uh, but when I'm recognized, it's really lovely. I was just recognized at my local butcher shop yesterday,
Mhm.
and I had a lovely conversation with someone that's a fan of the show. And I just said, "Thank you for saying something. That's so nice."
I feel
And
like
yeah,
because you look so different, people see you
yeah.
and they're like, "Is that her?"
Yeah, they
Or
might actually be wondering. Totally. Yeah, and he actually asked me, I told him like what cut of meat I wanted, and he's like, that's when I knew because I heard your voice.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I actually love the anonymity. I love that I look
Mm,
so different from my character. I also think it'll be fun when I play a different character one day to like just shapeshift a little bit
yeah.
and even change even more. But no. So the short answer is no, not really. I don't really get recognized.
Um, excellent point 3722. There's so many numbers in these. Uh, says her glasses have changed. They started off pink, and then she went lensless for a while, and now she's back to pink, which I didn't even notice when I read that question. I know that lensless is easier for filming, but why did you make the switch back to pink?
Okay. What was their name again? The
Excellent
girl.
point 3722.
Excellent point. You make an excellent point. However, excellent point. The glasses did not change. It's all trick of the lighting. The lighting changed.
Huh.
And the angle of the lenses changed so that I would reflect less into the
Uh-huh.
camera. Because a big struggle of season one is with the glasses that I had, I was constantly catching reflection of the lights.
Hmm.
They were like especially all over the place, the way that they were bent or something. And so a lot of season one, I'm kind of like looking down because I'm trying to be a technically a better actress and
Yeah.
like not do those things, but it ended up making my eyeline also really crazy. And I didn't know I was learning a lot. But they flattened the lenses in season two so that they would catch the light less. And I actually told the Joes, I was like, listen, I think that it's a different shade. It's not as pink as it used to be. And they were like, oh, we'll ask. And it came back. They didn't change the shade at all. It was literally just like lighting or whatever. So
Wow.
I also thought the same thing, excellent point, but nope, same shade the whole time.
Interesting. And lastly, we have a lovely comment followed by a question from Alice reads this, who says, Flower seems like a stereotype on the surface, perpetually stoned hippie, but they've let her character have depth and given us pieces of her background that are unexpected. Her love and knowledge of basketball. She was in law school. She planned with Ira to start a coffee shop, which is more mainstream and business oriented. What other surprises do you think the Flowers background are in Flowers' background, and what other unexpected experiences or knowledge would you like the writers to add to Flowers' history?
Oh, so many things. I mean, I think Flower is the kind of character that like anything is possible. If you said that she was like, in her youth, she like was a professional like figure skater, like it makes sense. But um I think first of all, I'd like to know more about her family. Anyone that runs away to a cult, they're running also away from something.
Mm,
So I want to know like what that was like because after the pain of her loss of Michael, like why didn't she have a family that she felt like she could go back to for that comfort
mm,
or even friends? Like why did it take completely removing herself to heal? So I'd like to know what she was running away from. And but also what's cool about all the flashbacks we do get of Flower is they're always at a different part of the 60s, a different part of her transformation into Flower, because she was Susan at law school, right? And then over the course of the 60s, she actually became Flower. And so anytime we get a flashback, it's at a different point of that transformation. And I don't think we have any other ghost that in their real life, living life, changed so dramatically as Flower did.
yeah.
So really like I just love any opportunity to do another flashback at some point along that journey, um, to kind of peel back those layers and figure out like who she was before.
Mm.
And what's cool is in season four, we're on season five, we get to see a little bit of the smarter side of Flower, and we might get to see a little peek at who that Susan was.
Oh, I can't wait. And we have what we call sort of our $1 million question on the show on these forums like Reddit and Facebook groups for actors and whatnot. The number one question is always like, how do I get my first agent or manager? Because actors, they get tired of submitting themselves endlessly
Yep.
on Backstage or Actors Access and all of that. So, what advice do you have for an actor who's like looking for their first rep to really help get the ball rolling on their career?
Yeah. Um, it's all changed so much, even in just like the last 5 years. But I think for sure, figuring out like what you do best, what you do that no one else can do, and figuring out a way to show that, whether it be on a live stage or a comedy stage where someone is actually going to see you in person to perform, or making a TikTok, whatever it is. But you don't have to be good at everything. In
Mm,
fact, the more you can get really specific with what you bring to the world, that's going to be your strength. So figure that out. And you can take a long time to figure that out. It might be like you got to work a bunch of crazy jobs and realize like I want to do characters. I want to like, perform and figure out how to put these people, crazy people I'm meeting at the coffee shop into sketches or whatever to inspire you. Um, or it could be really simple as like, oh, I play the flute, so I'm gonna be like, the flute girl. I don't know what it is, but like just take a deep dive into like what makes you special and let your freak flag fly in any way you can,
mm.
and people will notice.
And we always like to end with a quick game. So pick a number between one, two, and three, and that'll determine the game we play.
Two.
Alrighty. Two is called For the First Time, a game of life and career firsts. So what is the first movie you saw in theaters?
Oh, in theaters. I remember seeing The Wizard of Oz 2 in theaters, and we had to leave because I got so scared of the wheelies.
Uh, what was your first ever acting role?
Well, I did community theater, but I'll give you, I was slag heap victim number 4 in
Uh,
an episode of The Untouchables in Chicago when
uh,
I was a very small child.
I
I had
noticed
a
that was your
name.
first
I had a
credit. I was
name.
like, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
where was your first flight to?
Chile.
Mm,
We were going to visit my family, and it was my dad's first time back in like 15 years, and I
wow.
was 5 years old, and that was a crazy long journey.
Mm.
But yeah,
Who's the first person you call when you book a job?
my husband.
What was the first time you saw yourself on TV?
I was in a commercial when I was a kid
Mm.
and saw it on TV, and that was really fun because you didn't know when it was gonna pop up, and then
Mm.
when it did, you're like, ah, that's me.
What was the first time you were starstruck?
Oh, I remember I saw Michael Showalter in a Starbucks in Astor Place when I was in college. And I loved the state growing up. It
Mm.
was a big influence. And I walked up to him and I went, "You're Michael Showalter for the state." And I said it much louder than that. And he looked up and went, "I am." And then I went, "Big fan." And I just walked away because I didn't know what else to do. And I hope he appreciated that. I don't know. It might have been a little bit assaulting.
He got home and was like, you have no idea what happened today. Um, and lastly, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Hmm. I would say that doesn't that's not one of
Mm.
the 10. Sorry. Um, it can be hard, but the good times are worth it. Keep going. I don't know if that
Love
was
that.
10, but
We'll count later. It's fine. Sheila, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today and for joining us on the show. Again, huge congrats on Ghost. I can't wait for the new season and the new next season whenever that comes out. But again, just huge congrats on the success of the show.
thank you, Juan. It was so nice to talk to you.
Alrighty, folks, and everyone listening, season 5 of Ghost premieres Thursday, October 16th at 8:30 Eastern on CBS and will be available to watch the next day on Paramount Plus. Thanks for joining us. Actors with Issues is hosted and produced by Juan Ayala. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or on the podcast platform you're listening to. Visit actorswithissues.com for exclusive news and reviews, and give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok at Actors with Issues.